Over the last 24 hours, we have seen Trump sending mixed signals. Initially, he said he would strike Iran. Later in the day, he postponed the attack on Iran, which was scheduled for today, after requests from Saudi, the UAE, and Qatar. So how do we read these signals? Is this a sign of US weakness, or is the US actually up for a de-escalation through diplomacy?
So first of all, thanks for having me. We just had a brief conversation yesterday about what Trump was going to do.
Right.
So Trump has clearly taken a U-turn. And this is not the first time Trump is taking a U-turn. Trump has taken several U-turns ever since he started the war on February 28th of this year. Remember, he said that within 48 hours he was going to blow up Iran's public infrastructure. And then after 48 hours, he extended the deadline. And then he extended it, he kept extending it at the request of the field marshal all the time. This time for a difference, this is at a request from the UAE, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, not from Pakistan. That's the only difference I saw in the latest post. But, you know, to understand the US approach towards this conflict, that's what your question. Does this signal a weakness? What does the pause mean? Just take a step back and look at how this conflict is unfolding before us. Okay? So the Americans went to war on February 28th along with the Israelis. And Trump had initially said that regime change was one of his objectives. And then he had listed out all of his objectives, including taking out Iran's missile capability, etc., etc. But after 40 days of bombing, the Americans and the Israelis did not achieve any of their objectives. Not just that. What made matters worse was that the Iranians took control of the Strait of Hormuz, which means they have added one problem to the existing list of problems. So the ceasefire was announced on April 8th, right? After 40 days of bombing. And since April 8th, Donald Trump had done everything he could do to exact concessions from the Iranians. He had a direct negotiation with the Iranians in Islamabad on April 11th, right? Vice President himself, J.D. Vance himself went to Islamabad. This is the same Donald Trump who on March 6th said that he would not accept anything but an unconditional surrender from Iran. No deal with the Iranians, he wrote on Truth Social. And the same Trump sent his Vice President to Islamabad. And he sent his Vice President to Islamabad. Why? Because the Iranians said that we will talk to only the Vice President, not to Jared Kushner or Steve Witkoff. So the Americans said, yes, we will send the Vice President. The Vice President went there. So he held direct negotiations with the Iranians. Okay? And he announced the ceasefire. And if you look at the initial announcement of the ceasefire, one of the key demands was that the Iranians should open the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed, but the ceasefire is still holding. Why? Because Trump doesn't want to go back to active war. So from April 8th onwards, he's been trying diplomatically to get a deal that satisfies his demand. He can't just accept what the Iranians are offering because that would be political defeat for him. Right? So he wants a deal that he can sell to American public. By the way, the war is extremely unpopular in the US. I mean, just yesterday, on May 18th, the New York Times poll suggests that 68% of Americans are against this war. So the war is unpopular. The economic cost is rising, and Trump is trying to shut the war through a diplomatic deal, but the Iranians are not ready to give him what he is asking for. So Trump is, you know, the entire diplomatic process is in a logjam now, in an impasse now. And what should Trump do next? So he had imposed his blockade, basically enhancing economic pressure on the Iranians, thinking that they would change their position. No, they haven't. What the Iranians did in return was to kick the nuclear file down the aisle. So the Iranians are now saying that we are not going to discuss the nuclear issue. Let's first discuss a closure of the war, and then we will take up the nuclear program. So that was a setback for, I mean, it was a diplomatic setback for the United States. So what are the options Trump is now facing? Okay, one is to make meaningful concessions to the Iranians, which also means that accept that I have lost the war. He has lost the war. He hasn't won the war. But like I mean, this is not the first time the United States losing a war. They lost the war in Vietnam. They lost the war in Afghanistan.
Right.
But it's always difficult for the United States to accept the fact that they lost the war.
Right.
It took 20 years in Afghanistan. 20 years, right? I mean, this war started 3 months ago.
Right.
So it's too early for the Americans to accept that they lost the war.
Right.
But that was one option. But that would be politically, very, very costly for Trump.
Right.
The other option to break the logjam is to resume bombing. Because, I mean, some sections in the US, the neocons and the Israelis, they believe that, I mean, if the United States resumes bombing, goes back to the war, and put more pressure on the Iranians, their position might change.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. That's all I have to say.
So that's also economically affecting the whole world. Like in India, for say, if you see.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Right.
Because when he started the war, oil price, I think on February 27th, oil price was, let's say, around 75, 77
Right.
dollar per barrel. Yesterday it was hovering around 115. And this is the future price. The landing price is much more expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So in India, we have already seen two
hikes.
raises
Yeah,
in
in a
the
week.
petrol prices,
Yeah.
right? I mean, including just yesterday.
Yeah.
And there will be more hikes, definitely. And the Prime Minister is asking everybody to tighten their belts, right? I mean, basically the government is now announcing for, asking for austerity measures from bank employees, bank managers, government employees, ordinary citizens. The government is asking everybody to cut costs,
Right.
which means the pressure is mounting. And you look at rupee is losing its value, which means your current account deficit is widening. There would be enhanced pressure on the rupee. So overall, the Indian economy is facing one of its gravest crises because of this war, thanks to Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Both are your friends.
Yeah.
Both are your friends, right? Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. Israel is your great friend. But Israel brought this war. Israel brought this war to India's neighborhood, and India, all Indians, including you and me, are suffering because of this war.
Right.
So the economic cost is actually rising. And compared to February 28th, now oil price is already high. So imagine if Trump goes back to the war, which means there would be enhanced pressure on the global economy. Is the United States ready to take that pill? That's the question. And not just that. See, the Americans bombed Iran for 40 days, right? And if they are going to resume the bombing, which means they will have to use greater force.
Right.
Because the Americans now know that the kind of bombing operations they carried out were not effective.
Right.
So you need to carry out a much more intense airstrikes on Iran.
Right.
If you want to force Iran to change. So that also gives an incentive to the Iranians to enhance the threshold of the attacks on the Gulf countries.
Yeah.
Which means if the Americans are going to attack the Iranian public infrastructure, the Iranians can attack the public infrastructure in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar.
Right.
I mean, is the United States ready for that? Are the Gulf countries ready for that? That's the question we all are facing, right? So escalation, I mean, sections in the US, I know, the Israelis, they also believe that escalation, you take escalation dominance to put more pressure on the Iranians, but the Iranians also have a strike capability,
Right.
which means they will respond.
Right.
So are you ready to take the pain? That's the question.